How has your experience been with romance throughout your life with a visible difference?
Is my answer.
Access denied. Access denied. Access denied.
Hey y'all, it's your host Jessica Jordan, and I'm here on Access Denied, the podcast dedicated to helping you get over your fear of rejection, one episode at a time. Let's go! Hey y'all, and welcome to the very first episode of Access Denied. I am so excited to be here, and I'm even more excited to be joined by Laura Mathias, who is an incredible visible difference campaigner in the UK. Laura and I have been friends for years, and our conversation today focuses on life with visible differences. We talk about everything from the mishaps of London Fashion Week to our first meeting at a photo shoot in London, even to romance, love, and some of those awkward intimate moments. You guys are not gonna wanna miss this episode. Let's do this, y'all. Laura, hey, welcome to Access Denied.
Well, this is very energetic and exciting for a Tuesday afternoon.
Well, I'm so honored to have you here. You have been such a light in my life for the last, I've known you 2 years now? A little over?
I think so. A little over, but I feel like, we're due a catch-up, so why not do it on a podcast, eh?
Why not? Yeah, absolutely. No, I was just back in the UK visiting, and we didn't get a chance to, connect while I was there, and I was like, all right, well, we have to do it, and we have to let the whole audience of both of ours hear and listen in and have a front row seat to whatever we're discussing today.
And I massively owe you because you were back in the UK and I didn't manage to see you, so I guess now I have to come to Chicago.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Chicago's great. You definitely need to come. That is of its own.
I really want to. Obviously, like most people, I watch a lot of The Bear, but I believe there's more to Chicago than just this one fictional TV show. But hey, I'm prepared for you to show me a good time.
It is both an accurate representation and a very inaccurate representation. It's an extreme version, and it's like a pinpointed version for the hospitality industry, I feel like, specifically. Mm-hmm. But that kind of exists. It is kind of like, I don't know, Chicago's a great place.
Amazing. But is there good food? Because when I go to a city, I want to try the restaurants.
Here's what I'll say about Chicago's food. It is severely underrated. I feel like nobody looks to Chicago as being like a food hub. I have been out here going to these restaurants and been blown away. Blown away. The food is incredible.
Awesome. Okay, well then, booking my flight.
That's all it takes, just food. I love it. But Laura, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to chat, catch up, all the things. But can you introduce yourself? Tell me who you are, what you do, all the good things.
Okay, no pressure. So I'm a visible difference campaigner, and that sounds really big and lofty, but basically it means I am sitting here as a 33-year-old bald woman, and I lost my hair when I was 13 years old due to the condition alopecia. And I didn't talk about it for 2 decades. I wore a wig. I was terrified for anyone to notice. And I let it stop me living my life, basically, because I would say no to so many different things because I was scared that my wig would fall off or that I would have to self-advocate and tell someone that I was wearing a wig. And I was not prepared to do that from the fear of being rejected for being different. And then global lockdown, pandemic, everything happening. And like most people, I went through a bit of a kind of self-interrogation time, and I realised this isn't the life I should be living. Like, I'm letting this idea of how people are going to respond to me stop me even having a go. So yeah, effectively in the last 3 years, I've accidentally basically ditched the wig. And then more than that, I, after 2 decades of not talking about it, now spend a hell of a lot of time talking about my big bald head and celebrating it because, I've gone 180 and I want to celebrate it now. I want to acknowledge it is a big part of my identity, but own that and celebrate it.
I think one thing you just said there was I did a complete 180, and that's something that I know in my journey I experienced as well, because I feel like as soon as you kind of start having that self-confidence and start having that worth that you're like, no, this is ridiculous. I am me and I am wonderful. Hear me roar. You do dive all in. A lot of people do. I feel like it's not this trickle effect. It's boom, let's dive in.
It's crazy to think the time comparison, 17 years of not talking about it, avoiding the topic. And if someone did notice I was wearing a wig or hey, your eyebrows are tattooed on, are they? Or like, someone asking me about something that didn't look quite right about me because I didn't have hair and wasn't doing a very good job of disguising it, because it's hard work, and no one really teaches you how to do makeup or wigs or whatever, especially when you're a teenager. So yeah, it's crazy then to think all that time in stasis of hiding to then in the last 3 years, like not just being able to leave the house without a wig, but like walking down a catwalk at London Fashion Week next to you, not wearing a wig, like that extreme in such a short space of time is because, like you said, I dived in, and also because I found a community willing to talk about it. And that was the thing I think I'd been missing for all those years. Somebody who just got it, people that just got it.
Oh yeah. People like, I feel like don't talk about how important community is with like visible differences and all that all the time. Like the way that saved my life, the way that like completely rewrote my narrative. So I love that it has also done a lot for you. I definitely want to dive into the modeling side of things for a second here, because that's where you and I connected, was through a photo shoot, I believe was our first interaction, correct?
Yes, it was. And I'm actually hoping to connect with that photographer again soon for like alopecia awareness stuff. And again, that was definitely 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. And you were just there. There were the proper models, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't use the word proper models. Everyone's a model. If you're being paid and or you're in front of a camera, as far as I'm concerned, in any capacity where somebody who knows what they're doing the other side of the camera, you're a model. So I take back that statement. I say proper models because you were with an agency, I believe, and you were there, and you seemed to know what you were doing, whereas this was my first ever like experience in front of a camera, and I was like, why am I here? They're gonna see right through me. I don't belong here. But like, you and everyone there were just the nicest, most amazing people. And it was a real room of diversity, wasn't it? Like we all were showcasing like a different lived experience, a different condition. It was great.
It was so empowering to be in that room and to share that space with so many like influential people. But I think, to your point, like diverse people that have such unique stories and experiences. And I remember like the fun part, we only shot for what, like 30 minutes each or something like that. It was really short in terms of like actual work, but we sat on a couch eating Oreos and drinking champagne.
Yep.
Like for most of that day, just like swapping stories, talking about modeling with like disabilities and visible differences and all of that. And it was so interesting and it was so fun. I'll never forget that. That was like one of my favorite shoot days for sure.
Yeah, it was amazing. And like I said, that was one of my first experiences of doing something like that. So I thought that's what it's always like. Like I thought this must be it. Because I remember like I was quite early on in the day in terms of my time in front of the camera. Which I was kind of relieved about, because like I wanted to get it done because I was quite nervous, but I didn't need to stay for the rest of the day. Like if anything, I was probably taking up room, because that room got real busy with everyone getting makeup done and like whatever. But you said it was just such a nice feel. Like it was like everyone wanted to just be watching in the background as someone else did their thing. And yeah, it was awesome. It was a really good day.
It was. And I think that was the photographer's like goal within that project too, which is why like I'm glad you stayed around. I'm glad you hung out for the day, and like we all got to like do that, because yeah, it got crowded, but like so what, we had a good time, and I'm still like connected to everybody. Like we're still connected from that, so there's that. And you have been there for me during literally one of the worst moments of my life, so we were brought together from that couch with champagne, and I'll never forget it. So
yeah, and actually it's been on other modeling things that me and you have probably had our deepest chats in random rooms that we've been put in big brand offices, you know, when we were thrown together. So yeah, you do, because you're just sitting there, and life, God, I hate this, life is lifing behind the scenes, isn't it? And yet you have to show up and be in front of the camera and just like be like, hey, I'm here to advocate for this, and I'm here because this is what my side hustle is, and I really want to shout about it. And it's like, oh no, but this has just happened, or my life is falling apart in this area, but hey, you know. So yeah, I've got so much respect for you as well, because you're always so joyful to be around, but also honoured that you would chat to me when things were a bit tough in other areas.
I will say the same thing. Like I feel like one of my favorite memories of us is sitting in the Kurt Geiger like break room.
Yeah.
During a press day. Like we had just done like some filming and some interviews for, I don't even know what it was, some press thing for London Fashion Week. Mm-hmm. And we were both there and we were crying. We were just like crying and having a really real moment. And I was like, oh God, this is so bad.
You know what's awful? I totally had forgotten that I was also crying and that you shared with me, and I had crap going on as well, which I've clearly just like, I've just repressed. Like, and I'm like, no, you're right. We were both just sobbing at each other, like being like, men are crap. Like, wow. Yeah. But I felt so much
But then
better
you would
than
never know. Oh, same. I watched those videos. You would never know that we were both going through it.
No.
Never
no.
know.
And on the day of a certain catwalk, you would never know the tea that was happening behind the scenes either. You just wouldn't.
That day was so intense. Oh my God. Oh my God.
My
I loved that.
ex-boyfriend was there behind the scenes. I mean, it was horribly intense. It was just like, yeah.
It was like a 12-hour day. I forgot my walking stick. That was like my hell on earth, because I was like, how does somebody who relies on a mobility aid leave it at home?
Yeah,
and I'm like, obviously, when you're living with somebody who traumatizes you, perhaps you're not thinking clearly when you're in the home.
You know what? I take that question back. Let's just blame the men again. I'm sorry. No, this is not a man-hating podcast, but still, sometimes needs must.
No, it's really not. It's really not. But in that circumstance, I'm definitely not, like, it was on me, but like.
No, but it shows, like, even on these big milestone days, because that was a big deal for both of us. Like, it was a huge deal. Like, walking London Fashion Week was a moment. And, yeah, like, you forgot something fundamental that you needed because, like, it's almost like everything just, you're like, the eyes on the prize, isn't it? It's like, that's what I've got to do. You almost forget the basics of what you need to just get on day to day. Yeah, but no, you rocked it. I still think, and that was a good day. It was a long day, but it was a good day. Less champagne on that day, though. Thank God. Actually.
Less champagne for sure. Can you imagine? Oh God.
Just drunk,
especially well, the show didn't even start till 9 p.m. Like, if we had been drinking all day, it would have been.
I thought it was 10.
I remember
it being 10. We didn't start. Yeah.
It was a long day.
Yeah.
It was a long day. It was a great day. Victoria was great. That was a great show. It was a fun experience. Awesome. Definitely a milestone for both of us. I know we both like rank it very high for like accomplishments or whatever, but damn. Damn.
We're not 21 anymore. We just don't have the resilience for, 16-hour days or whatever.
No, but I do think that this is a great, like, poignant thing to, like, talk about, because, like, in the face of rejection, in the face of kind of, like, dealing with things that are tough or that put you down or seemingly, like, take you off the path that you wanted to go on, right? Being able to still get up and do the things that you know you need to do, like, that's not an easy thing to do. And, like, what's something that, like, how do you stay motivated in those moments? Like, how do you keep going?
I think this will probably sound like a real cliche, but it's true. I always have to think about it being bigger than me. Like, if something feels really tough for me in the moment, I have to think about the bigger cause, the bigger campaigning cause for why I have to show up and do something. Or even on the days where I just want to put my wig on and feel like crap, like, I'll allow myself those days. But I know for me, like, and to be clear, my message is never that you have to ditch a wig and wearing wigs is bad or anything like that. Wigs are great fun. Wigs are fabulous. Like, I literally wore them for 2 decades of my life. But the other side for me was my eczema was agony because I was wearing literally silicone-based wigs that I was allergic to, it turns out, and wondering why I had open wounds on my head for 2 decades, literally. So I was putting myself in pain to wear a wig, which is just the wrong way around, The wig was wearing me, I wasn't wearing the wig. So even now, like, going out day to day, I know it's better for me because I'm like, well, why am I going to put myself through pain? But also, like, then at least I'm that piece of representation for someone's day in a way that I didn't have 2 decades ago when I was losing my hair. So, like, I know it sounds ridiculous because I'm just going down to the shop and buying some milk, but it's like, well, I shouldn't apologise for who I am because it might help someone else. So even though that sounds like a really grand way to have to do it, if that's what helps me get out the front door on a low confidence day, then I'm going to use that mindset shift. And I didn't have that bigger purpose when I was going through hair loss. I didn't go to school for a whole academic year. I didn't leave the house for about 6 months when I lost my hair, age 13. Like, I was literally agoraphobic. So I've been at the lowest point. I've been where the motivation doesn't come. You know, my parents pleading with me knowing that I have to have an education, all the practical things, but there was something missing and I couldn't be motivated to go. So I think sometimes having to remind myself that there has to be a purpose for me, like in what I'm doing and showing up, like it's beyond just me getting out and buying that milk. Like, if that's the story I have to tell myself, then that's what I'm going to lean into.
I think that opens up an interesting conversation about like how when you have a visible difference, like even just going down to the store and buying milk, like you're making a statement. Like you're almost like, I hate the idea of like humans being tied to politics, but we have done that. Like you're like a political being just like walking down the street, and that comes with its own challenges and like mental like blockages as well. I, like you said, like you didn't leave the house for 6 months. Like that is a result of that change, right? And going through that, like, all right, how do I handle and how do I navigate people staring, people asking questions, people having opinions, usually like unpleasant opinions, and breaking those barriers. Like you have to, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be able to handle that.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think back at 13 when it happened. I hadn't experienced those things. It was just the fear of them. And even at 13, having never had a visible difference, I mean, saying that, I was a chubby kid and I had eczema. I'd been bullied by boys because of my appearance already, just for not being, you know, an air quotes desirable or attractive teenage girl, you know. So just the thought of that, and then how the hell were they going to treat me when I actively looked different? Like, you know, before I was just undesirable. Now I was like, and it's so intense to think that even back then I had that worldview, even though I hadn't had those experiences. You know, it's like I knew what was out there, and I wasn't mentally prepared to have to deal with that. I just couldn't, and I don't think any young person would. In fact, I don't really think it's an age thing. I think when your body goes through a change, when your appearance drastically changes, it changes things, and it's hard, and it's gonna change how people respond to you in life. And you know it, because deep down you know that we're all hardwired to make these snap judgments about people, and you probably know, if you're honest with yourself, that you've done it to other people. And that's the hardest thing, because you know you're guilty of it too. But it's like, so how can I not be such a dick when I'm faced with difference effectively? And you just need to broaden your horizons, and we need more people showing up as their authentic selves and prepared to say, no, this is what I look like, this is my condition, this is my scar, this is my skin condition, and I'm not going to apologize for it, because guess what? If you just want to speak to me, you'll see my value lies within what I've got to give to this world, not within this canvas that you're looking at, you know?
Right. Yeah. Gosh. I love that. I love that so much. I love the idea of it not being an age thing, because like how many products are there out there for like anti-aging? Like, and
no, I'm 33. My frown lines are they're furrowed and deep now, and I'm like, would I get? And then I'm like, but no, I'm a visible difference campaigner. Would I get Botox? And or the main thing is, I'm thinking, well, anyone can do what the hell they want. My body, my rules, all of that. But my main concern is I'm allergic to everything, so I can just imagine it going terribly wrong. But also, I'm a really expressive person, you know, like talking about a canvas, because I don't have hair to like cover my face. When I go out bald, it really is just my face that you're looking at. And I have very expressive like so I would wonder, like, if I got rid of those, yeah, like how would you know what I'm thinking and feeling, Jess?
So obviously being on the internet, like we're fed these things all the time. Like you have to look a certain way, and you have to like, even as visible difference like campaigners or like people that like show up and advocate for people to embrace themselves. Like I've thought about Botox, I'll be honest, I have. And it's like, but why am I getting it? Am I getting it for me? Am I getting it for these other people? And like, that's a silly reason, because I don't know. Not that it's not, I don't know.
No, it's so interesting though, because like, again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it, but it's like, how can I be so clear in my head about I want to show up more without my wig than with it, because I know I was wearing it for the wrong reasons, and I was actually doing damage to my body and yet I would consider getting a needle inserted into my forehead. You know, it's the weird double dichotomy, isn't it? It's that hierarchy thing of like, oh well, that's not that bad, or no, oh no. But yeah, I know how I felt about being a wig wearer. I know I felt that I had a problem, and my problem was that I'd lost my hair, and the solution was to hide that. That's just what my brain told me. In fact, even when I first lost it, and I do hope things have changed, this was 20 years ago, but I have conversations with parents now with their kids going through alopecia. And I know that they're still having the same battles, because it's like they want to say to them like, hey, if you want to shave off what's left of your hair and we could go and get a wig fitted. And it's like, you want to offer that because there is a fix, but equally you don't want it to be like that's the expected thing to do to live a good life. Because as I've realised, actually, yeah, it helped me get back to school getting that wig. It helped me kind of blend in to an extent. But I wasn't living, because I was just wasting so much energy, terrified constantly. And actually, you know what? Being a 13-year-old wig wearer, and wigs back then weren't great. They were too big. They were not realistic. They were really uncomfortable. I had a visible difference anyway, because, I mean, it was pretty obvious. I didn't realise how obvious, but looking back at photos, etc., and even looking back, I was at a friend's wedding a couple of years ago, and she was a friend from uni, and she was like we were talking about my alopecia in a group. I was wearing a wig that day for her wedding because I wanted to. I felt dressed up, and I wanted to wear a bright red wig to go with my green dress. And yeah, she was like, "Oh yeah, no, we all knew Laura wore a wig at uni. We just knew she didn't want to talk about it." And I was literally like, "What the? Sorry? You knew? I thought like I came out to you. I thought I revealed it." She was like, "Oh no, sorry, we knew." And I was like, "Oh cool, I'm really glad I wasted $3,000 on that wig every 2 years. Fantastic." So yeah, people were making judgments about me anyway if they noticed. You know, people are always going to judge, but at the end of the day, that you're a blip in their life for a moment, if you're lucky, with a stranger, and then it's gone, you know?
That is such an, like, because, okay, I had a similar experience kind of where I would be like constantly putting myself in like, I don't want to say dangerous situations, but like doing damage to my knee joints, right? I would hop around a lot. Mm-hmm. And in my brain, I was like, okay, well, this is how I make myself like quote unquote less disabled. I'm like, I hop around. I don't use a chair. I just go to dances. I go to prom. I hop around the dance floor instead of rolling around. That's just how I'm going to do it, because I wasn't wearing my prosthetic at the time. And people are like, you're like killing yourself to do this. You know that, right? Like, and I'm like, oh, so you noticed. You noticed that I'm like mind blowing. Like, what do you mean you noticed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy the things we tell ourselves and teach ourselves to get by, and the reason we think we're doing it. And yeah. Ultimately,
it's like a level of control, right?
Yeah.
It's like a way to control the narrative and like in a way like protect yourself.
I think that's really interesting, but I think when someone once told me like, or I read it somewhere, it's not your business what anyone else thinks of you. Like, unless somebody chooses to use their words to communicate with me, their feelings about me, and then we can enter a dialogue, if they choose to keep that internally in their head, it's literally not my business. Like, so why should I waste my energy thinking or worrying or guessing what someone is thinking about me and my big bald head, or if I'm wearing a wig or not? Because, like, they haven't chosen to spend energy talking about it with me, so why would I even waste mine? And I honestly think I need to remember that each day, because I waste so much energy, even to this day. And yeah, we could argue it's because I was a 13-year-old chubby bald girl, so that maybe that's where my anxiety stems from. But I spend a lot of time thinking about people's perceptions. And, you know, empathy is a good thing, but that can go too far. So I think my kind of confidence journey, a big part of that has to be sometimes being prepared to shut off that, like, no, it's not my business. If someone wants to talk to me, if someone's got an opinion, bring it to me. But I can't go around trying to fill in the gaps of what someone might be thinking or feeling. It's just not my business.
It's not your business. It's not your business. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Oh my God,
Yes.
I love it. I love, honestly, I've said this on every episode that I've recorded so far, just so you know, but like, I love doing these because people just bring so much wisdom, and like, that is such a nugget of wisdom. It's not your business. It's not your business what that person's thinking. And like, honestly, I think the other thing that like I tend to like forget, right, especially like in our jobs that we have on the internet where people are paying attention and are looking to us to say things, out in the real world, people do not be caring. They just don't. It's not
True.
it's they're too busy dealing with their own stuff. Like, they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah, although saying that, humble brag, because I'm not big on the internet like you are. I have a very niche, very small community, I'd say. I'm not, I don't have masses of followers. And yet I was on the train home from London to my little town and I got spotted and it was hilarious. Like, I've honestly never felt anything like it. But I was so scared because she came up and was like, hi. And I was like, oh my God, what is she going to say? Because I was like sweating buckets at the time. I was like, this is not. She was just like, you're Laura, aren't you? Yeah, I follow you. I once did a drawing of you. Do you remember 2 years ago I did a portrait of you? She's like, oh my God, you're so much prettier in real life. And like, again, immediately I was like, of course there's something about my appearance immediately. But, like, what? But it was just, and then she was lovely and we chatted the whole way home and she overshared her life with me and I really relate to that. Again, that is my business because she's choosing to share it with me, so I was invested. But, like, yeah, and it's just crazy. This woman on the train had once done a portrait of me and I went back and I found our messages and she had literally drawn me 2 years before when I did my first ever bald photo. Like, how bizarre is that?
That is an epic story. Also, we love an overshare here. You and I.
Yes, we do.
We are the queens of oversharing.
That's why we're friends. Like,
Exactly.
because we force
100%.
that intimacy way too early and people either run or they come closer and we came closer.
We did. We absolutely did. You were one of the first people that I was like really real. I'm like, I'm getting divorced. Like, genuinely one of the very first people I said that to. And I was like,
I
wow.
remember our brunch really well. Like, yeah, when shit got real. Yeah.
Shit got real so fast.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for that.
No, never apologize, ever. Like, genuinely, I hate that you're going through it, and I hate that this stuff happens in life when you're like, how can that person who is so deserving of love and good stuff in their life, and shit stuff just happens sometimes, and I think we need to realize it's not personal because it's like, I mean, I say that we choose these people in our lives, but apart from that, like, like, people can be disappointing, but also there is a lot of good in people. Like, if that bloody Love Actually quote, if you choose to look, you actually see love really is all around. And it's true. Like, I know when I'm going through phases mental health wise, when I'm feeling fed up and like things are crap or like everyone's staring at me or whatever it is, it's self-perpetuating and that's what happens. And then I'll have a negative interaction, or I'll have someone really rude, or I'll have a man at Liverpool station reach out and try to stroke my bald head, like things like that will happen. On the weekend of my uncle's funeral, things were pretty crap anyway. This is what I'm saying, like, everything felt heavy, and then like one of my worst interactions happened with someone physically trying to touch my bald head. And then, like, there could be a day where I've just hung out with you and we've done a shoot and and I'm brimming with confidence and I feel unstoppable and great and I'm strutting down Oxford Circus or something and, like, people smile at me. And it's like, has anything really changed there, or is it just my outlook? I still look the same.
I mean, obviously some of it's environmental, like a man trying to pet your head. That's
weird.
Unhinged behavior. Don't like it. Can't say it's great.
No.
And, like, I don't know, life is full of those ups and downs, and that's what makes it so, like, great when it is great. Like, we can appreciate the greatness. But dang, getting there sometimes is a lot. Getting there is a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
Like, the dating conversation, though, like, because I know, again, we've both been in these streets, if you will. How has your experience been, I guess, like, with romance throughout your life with a visible difference?
Is my answer. Romance has been fucking hard work as somebody who was ashamed to be, full stop. As someone who was ashamed to be, as someone was ashamed to exist, as someone was ashamed to exist because they didn't look how they thought other people looked and they didn't understand why that had happened to them. And and also, like, for years my hair loss was like it was patchy and I was hiding it under the wig, and then like one eyebrow would fall out and then the other one would like grow back, and it was all just so uncertain, and I always held on to hope, and the hope was that my hair might come back one day and then I'll start living the life I deserve. I was always waiting for that. So like I said, I'd say no to lots of things, and like at school, because that's when my hair loss had happened, I was always the girl with the wig, so like I was like, well, I'm not going to have any dating there. If I did, it was in secret, and then I wonder, you can't help but be like, oh, I wonder if that person was only dating me because, you know, they didn't want their friends to know when you're kids and everyone's judgmental. I also remember incidents really young where like I'd be asked on a date at a party and then I'd immediately feel the need to declare, by the way, I wear a wig and I just wanted you to know, and like I'd make it this big thing, and then like they'd cancel the date like a week before or something, and then I'd never know, was it because of the wig, or realistically I look back now and I'm like, no, it's because of how I approached that conversation. I made it such a big deal and they were like, whoa, this girl has problems, she doesn't like who she is, like this is a lot, you know. Whereas if I just owned it maybe a bit better, easier said than done. I was lucky when I got into adulthood, like it was still a really big deal, and I hid it from. So I was in a really serious relationship with someone, a guy who I actually bought a house with. It didn't work out, but at times it was a really lovely relationship. But start and the end, shit. And the start was dating him and hiding the fact that I wore a wig, to the point where we were even intimate together before I told him. And then when I told him, he said he was fine with it, but then he didn't talk to me for a week. And I ended up in a long-term, very, at points, healthy relationship with this person, but his reaction to my visible difference at the start kind of confirmed all my fears. It felt like he was ghosting me. We ended up talking about it on the phone like a week later. I was like, you have to see how this looks, like you've totally ghosted me. He was like, no, I've just been really busy this week, like he'd been making excuses. And I was like, I told you something that was so big to me and you have made me feel this big. And he was like, well, I just needed to speak to some friends about it, and I was speaking to so-and-so and they said like, okay, but does it change how you feel about this girl? Do you still like her? He was like, of course I do. So he was like weirdly third person telling me this conversation he'd had with his friend. But all I could hear was, this is such a big deal, you felt the need to go and talk it through with a friend. But again, of course it was, because the way I had told him was like this big reveal of something I needed to be ashamed of. So he was responding with the appropriate level of like drama because of how I was approaching telling this person that I cared about that I had a visible difference. And I'd like to think now, entering relationships, I am much better. I have been dating the most amazing person for the last few months. And I went on our first date wearing a bandana, and then it was really hot in the pub, so I ended up taking it off halfway through the date, you know, and that is mind-blowing to me. In fact, he's only seen me wear a wig once in the 5 months we've known each other, and I think it was a real head fuck for him, like, because I'd left my door open and I was putting the bins out, which I never do apparently, so he was like, I was already very confused because I was like, who is this strange woman putting Laura's bins out? And then he was like, wait, that is Laura, but she's got hair on, and I hadn't warned him because I just forgot. And then I think he was like, he got used to it, but it really took him a while. And yeah, I haven't really worn a wig with him since, and that's just because, like I said, I tend to just put comfort over whatever else. But yeah,
I have a lot of thoughts on everything you just said. I love that you are able to be so comfortable now after so many like years, and like probably even like over a decade of like shitty experiences, you know, like that you're able now to like only have him see you in a wig once is amazing. That's great for you. That's great for him. Like, I think that says a lot about both of you in that circumstance, and I love that. But I think the thing that I really want to latch onto and talk about is the way that you did the perspective shift about the guy that ghosted you, right? And you talked about, okay, well, the reason he's responding with all this drama is because I made it so dramatic. And like, you're like owning the fact that like you made it like a coming out. You made it like this big reveal. And I get it. I kind of do that too. And now I'm like, maybe I need to reapproach how I handle my disability in dating, because maybe it's causing more problems than it's worth. I don't know. This is very interesting.
But it's so much easier said than done, which is something I say all the time. But that's because just because our conditions are everyday for us we know that for lots of people, it might be the first time they've encountered someone with that particular lived experience. And therefore, I mean, let's hope we're attracting people that aren't super small-minded and like, oh my God. But equally, if something's new to someone, like when I met you, I really valued you wanting to talk to me about the elements of your condition. Like, because I hadn't had a friend with your particular condition. You know, like I want to learn about that. But there's like a nice and like casual and respectful and just like genuinely interested way to let that come up, rather than be like, like let me see, you know, like what can I ask you to make you uncomfortable? Yeah, no, but I did have to, I mean, maybe again it's a story I'm telling myself, but no, I don't think this is a story. I think the reality is I would approach the conversations around revealing my hair loss, and it was obvious that I didn't like who I was, and it was obvious that I was preparing myself to be rejected, and I was giving them rationale, like I was almost declaring to them, I will be less attractive to you now, I understand this, you know, I appreciate this is something you're going to need to think about. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, honest to God, now as 33-year-old me, I'm like, are you kidding? Do you know how lucky you were to be dating me? Like, I'm smart, I'm funny, I've got shit going on, I just don't have any hair follicles.
You just said something so like, again, my mind is blown. This is amazing. You're amazing. I think it's so fascinating because the way that you mentioned, like, when we met, I was really open about my condition. You were really open about your condition, and we bonded over that, I believe. And like, it's so, but we did it in a way that wasn't judging ourselves. We were just honest, and we were just like, hey, this is how it is. But when it comes to dating and romance, I don't know what that extra pressure is. It's so much more challenging to like be normal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's bizarre, and I think it's because maybe in those spaces that we met, they are spaces, and it's not that I'm faking it, but like I said, actually owning my hair loss and my alopecia, my eczema, just like owning that I have conditions that make me look different from the air quotes norm, like that is something that I've gone full guns blazing into, and like the way I'm going to heal is by sharing. I have to talk about it to heal, but then I also need to be the role model that I didn't have, because that's just the process that I need to do. And when I'm in those spaces, like, I'm being the best version of myself because I'm showing up for myself and that 13-year-old me. So like, I'm coming with confidence already. But you're right, there's something about dating, because it's so inherently tied to value around appearance and being desirable, and that in turn means appearance. It shouldn't, because desirable is about who do you want to spend your energy and time with. If you think about what dating actually is, yeah, it's great to go and have a bang. Sorry, I don't know how else to say I don't know why I just said have a bang. My God. Wow. Okay, cool. How did I get any dates is the question. Wham bam, and
I'm obsessed with you. I love you so much. That was incredible.
Anyway, like, yeah, obviously sex and attractiveness is a huge part of dating, but it's not the only thing. That's not like, I don't know about you, but when I've been dating, yeah, I like the immediate attraction and fizzle is great, but I know that will fizzle out, and I know the kind of people I need in my life to build a relationship with. And by relationship I mean we're like me and you, I mean, sorry to spill the tea, we're in a relationship. Friendship is a relationship. We've all got relationships with other people. You've got a relationship with the person that you buy your milk from every day. Why am I obsessed with buying milk and all these anecdotes? I'm dairy free. I'm sure. But you know what I'm saying, and I totally hear you. Like, us rocking the catwalk, or us like self-advocating for a community, for ourselves in a community, is totally different psychological space than like the psychological warfare that dating feels like at times. Like, it just is, because it feels so like I'm here to be judged. I'm putting myself up for you to tell me, do you like what you see? Do you like who I am? And that's intense.
It's so intense. And like, I mean, the reality is, like, if you're building a relationship with somebody, no matter what the case, but especially in romantic partnerships where like you're essentially testing out, like, hey, are we going to be together forever, or are we not going to be together forever? there is a lot of judgment in that because like you have to compromise. And it's like, okay, what do I compromise? I can't compromise who I am at my core, but what if they don't like who I am? There's a lot going on within that, I feel like. And it's not great and it's not easy, but I know something that you and I talk about a lot with like, not just dating, but like in so many other spaces as well. Like we reject ourselves a lot in that as well. Like that's essentially what, by making it a big song and dance, like disability, visible difference, you are rejecting yourself. You're already putting yourself as the last slot on the team. I don't deserve any playing time, but like if you want to put me in, coach, like okay. I don't know why I just did a sports reference. I don't watch sports, but there we go. So we're just
you watch sports
really
as much as I drink milk. There you go.
There you go. There we go. We're really winning these metaphors today.
Wow.
These stories.
I mean, I totally hear what you're saying. That self-rejection piece is very heavy when I look back at lots of the decisions I made in my teens and my 20s. And also that notion, and I don't think it's just come internally. I think it's come from conversations I've had even in friendship groups. There is this kind of unspoken thing, sometimes a little bit spoken actually, and I've got some examples, where it feels like there's almost an expectation that I should be grateful for attention, sexual attention. Why? Because you're not attracted to me? So just because you individually aren't attracted to me, therefore it's mind-blowing to you that like someone else might want to bang me. Crazy. Like, but it is these things that, like, I remember I love this friend, great friend, in a group of friends from uni. I mean, how can I explain this person in case they won't? Will they hear this? Basically, I had a friend once and we exist in a group of 6 of us girls, and we were in our 20s, we were all living in London, we were around someone's house for pre-drinks before going out for a night out in London. And she said, well, come on, Laura. God, it's really hard being their friend, isn't it? Me and you, and we have to sit here feeling like crap with these beauties. And I just remember being like, what? Like, and I remember being so hurt. And it took me like a few minutes, and I think I had to come back to it because I just felt whiplashed. Like, and I had to say to her, like, can I just say, like, one, I hate to hear you talking about yourself like that, but also I'm kind of feeling a bit upset that you feel that you can rank us. Like, this hasn't made me feel great. We're just about to go for a night out, and now I feel pretty crap and rejected and dejected. And this was before I had the language to be able to challenge her mindset more generally and advocate and be like, wait, are you saying this because you know I'm a wig wearer? Is it based just on the fact that I'm the curvier girl in the group? Like, all these things that came rushing through my head. And maybe now I'd bloody stand up and give her a TED talk for all I know, but also I know if she said that to me today and it was the first time, I'd probably feel like crap again, because what people say does actually have impact, and these are the things we have to choose each day. Do we accept that person's summary of who we are, or do we reject it? Because ultimately we should know ourselves better than anyone. But it's really hard when you care about someone and they're reviewing you and telling you what they think, especially when it's about something like your appearance and the aspects of our appearance that we can't immediately change, that they do make up our identity. Like, and that's really hard to hear if someone doesn't think that's appealing, because it does, like, how we look is core. It's how we show up in the world, and we know that people do judge us on it. So yeah, I remember that really hurting my feelings and like just burying me down into that narrative of like, I'm the ugly friend, and they all know it,
100%. And I think, I watched your TED Talk in preparation for today's interview and all of that, and something that you said, I believe multiple times in the talk, was like, don't comment on people's appearances, even if it's a good compliment. Like, just don't do it. And that is such like a core thing, I think, because some people will think that they're complimenting you too, and it's not a compliment. Like, or it's a backhanded compliment, or it's a neg, or like whatever it may be, or you might not take it that way. And like, obviously then there's things like this story where it's like just a straight up insult. Like, what on earth?
Because in a way, I think she thought she was then celebrating the others, but she said it in a way that was so objective, like I would agree. Like, objectively speaking, these people are beautiful, and me and you. And I was like, there is no objectivity when it comes to beauty, at least there shouldn't be. There is only a societal construction of what beauty is. And God forbid, people like us who have a condition, mark or scar that makes us in any way different from the norm, air quotes, like, we have people just assuming that we understand that and accept that. And I refuse to accept that anymore. I just refuse. Like, I can acknowledge from a society and historical perspective that that is what people will be led to believe. But I also believe we should all be challenging it for our own good, for the good of everyone and our own sanity. Like, it just infuriates me because, like, I have, not that it should be about them finding someone to kind of confirm to you, because you don't need external validation, but fuck me, it helps when you've had a lifetime of feeling rotten, and when you've had a lifetime of trauma in both friendships and relationships, it seems, when people feel the need to comment on your appearance. And you know, you've said thank you for listening to my TED talk, and I can imagine if someone out of context hears, oh, you're saying we can't ever even compliment someone. I know that sounds extreme, but I think it's just being really mindful. So the example I give in my TED talk is around weight loss. And I have people who have done this to me loads. In the last 3 months, Jess, I've had 2 stomach bugs. So I've lost about a stone. I've had multiple people comment on my weight loss because they assume, because I'm a curvier girl, it must be an aspirational thing, that it's something I've wanted to do. And then I have to be like, yeah, thanks, no, I've just been really unwell. Like, you do not know the reasons behind my weight loss. So, like, just don't risk talking about it. If you want to compliment something, say, you seem, like, really joyful today. Or, like, I like that top. Like, something that you know isn't, something that I could change in 30 seconds if I needed to. Something that isn't a reflection on me and my absolute core. And of course, maybe we can't all go round life being terrified of upsetting people. I'm not saying that. I know people always are like, oh, I meant well. And I think intention is really important. And you know when someone is trying to be hurtful, and you know when someone is either just being curious or has just slipped up. I slip up all the time. I've got ADHD, for God's sake. I often process by speaking out loud, in case you can't notice in our chat today. So it's not about that. It's not about beating each other up about it. I just think, as a rule, I just think in our dialogue day to day, it's really interesting how often compliments and insults seem to do with people's appearance. You notice, like, even at work, if someone's, like, been annoying or bitchy or cut you off in a meeting, like, if a friend, like, dials in and, like, tries to be like, yeah, they were really annoying, like, it will often just be a slur about their appearance thrown in there just to, like, add heat to the fire. It's like, their appearance has got nothing to do with it. They just cut you off and it was really annoying. Like, what's it got to do with, you know, the size of her tummy or the size of her earlobes? I don't know. Like, whatever. Like,
that's, like, honestly, I think that's a key thing, because intention does matter with compliments, and just, like, saying that sort of thing is, in general, I think limiting ourselves on, or trying to find something else to compliment too. Like, that's something that I actually was quite intentional about a couple years back when I was, like, working through some stuff, and I'm like, maybe I'll resort to doing that again. Like, instead of being like, oh, you have a lovely smile, be like, try to find another thing that's, like, not about somebody's appearance to compliment, because I don't know.
It's really
there's
hard.
A lot of benefits to that.
It's what we've been taught. It's what we've grown up with. Like, I always joke, my best friend's got a 2-year-old daughter, and I was like, oh, my instinct is always to be like, oh, you gorgeous girl, like, you know, like, and I find myself doing it, and I think, like, well, no, I don't want her to think she's only brilliant and I'm giving her the, you know, positive reinforcement because of her looks, which I know sounds ridiculous because she's 2, but again, I'm like, even then, I'm like, no, this is my protege, this is a chance to build these in. And then I found myself saying, oh, she looks like a scientist, and my friend was like, but you're still saying she looks, like, how does she look like a scientist? And but there's something in there.
There's something in there, and I also think, like, how you speak around kids does influence the next generation, just period. I mean, we learn everything that we feel is a learned behavior about, like, our bodies and, like, all of that. So I don't know. I do want to be mindful of time, because we have actually been chatting now for 49 minutes according to this recording thing. That's wild. But I do have a few, like, fast questions that I ask everybody that is just, like, a fun little way to round out the episode, I hope. Because I believe that music is the great unifier. It's something that we can all turn to for different emotional needs or whatever. What is a song that, no matter how you're feeling, if you're unmotivated or feeling down or upset, what song do you turn to that'll instantly lift up your spirits?
Okay, I'm not cheating here. So typically I always say any Stevie Wonder, like just any Stevie Wonder. But I actually have a random song that I'm obsessed with that is my I Need Power song, and it's by Chicago, and I've only just seen the connection here, and it's called Feeling Stronger Every Day, and it's just got a real build, and like it just, yeah, I don't know why, and I don't know when I discovered it. Randomly I was a teenager, because this is like a band from like the 70s or something, you know, but yeah, Feeling Stronger Every Day by Chicago.
That's amazing. That's such a funny connection too. Like, I'm gonna listen to it after this. I love a song that has build, so that's great.
Sorry, it's not Taylor Swift. Sorry.
You know, nobody has said Taylor Swift yet, and it's okay. I forgive everyone. She's not the only artist. I do understand. Just because she's my only artist doesn't mean anything.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
also
No,
loving the
I
idea.
listen to other music.
Yeah, of course you do. I'm just thinking about the idea of when I talked about, you know, how all friendships, every person is in a relationship with someone else, and you just thinking, oh my God, I'm in a relationship with Taylor Swift. Like, that's all I imagined your brain doing. You have a relationship with Taylor Swift, Jess.
I do. I really do. Her and I are like besties. I love her dearly. I don't know if she loves me, but like, it's a one-sided love affair. It's fine.
For now, she will.
If she meets me, all bets are off, man. Travis better watch his back. That's all I'm saying.
Whoa, strong words.
Strong words, I know. That was unhinged of me to say. What is something? What is something that, like, when you get told no, or when like the path is not pathing anymore, and like you're like, oh God, like everything seems to be a block in the direction that I want to go. What's something that's in your rejection rescue kit?
Oh, that's a really good question. Also, what you've just described is me most days, because I am a very neurodivergent individual. I'm unmedicated, and I'm learning how to kind of work with my spicy brain. But there's often moments of overwhelm, that real feeling of overwhelm. It's not a thing, but I always find getting outside. I know people say this, but it's so true. Just getting out to nature, like I physically just stomping it out, like. And typically I'll have my AirPods in, so I'm not really listening to nature. I'm looking at nature, but I'm listening to like some feel-good music, and it will often be the same few songs just on repeat on my repeat list on Spotify, and it's fine because it's familiar, it's safe, I know it's going to make me feel better. And even 5 minutes outside stomping and then back, and I say stomping because I'm stomping. It's not a casual little walk, it's not a meander, it's a bloody stomp. Like I look like an angry woman, a big angry bald woman on a mission around my little town. People know when I'm having a mental health stomp. Like yeah, and it's weird because I know I'm an extrovert, so you'd think it would be talking to people would make me feel better, and it does. I get my energy from people, but when I feel so overwhelmed that everything stops, the first step I have to take is just that moment to myself to just go and breathe and walk and get my heart rate up, but in a good way.
I love that. Mental health stomp. Forget the hot girl walk. No. Mental health stomp.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the
I won't
trend
be cast
going
again
forward.
for any catwalks after that description of my walk, but yeah.
No. We don't stomp down the catwalk. You turn on the strut. I've seen you strut. You strut.
I mean, I was wearing 6-inch sparkly stilettos. You can't stomp in those.
No, you might die if you do that. So,
yeah.
What is the last thing you did scared?
Oh, God. The last thing I did scared. Scared's an interesting one. Scared, like genuinely terrified.
Or nervous or anxious, like insert one of those words there.
Well, no, the last thing that happened to me that made me, in the authentic sense, scared was being a passenger in a car on the cliff in the Isle of Mull off the coast of Scotland, and my new boyfriend reversing to let some pregnant cows go past us, and there was this much space between me and impending doom. That was fearful. I didn't realise I was putting my life in his hands by letting him be designated driver, but yeah. I guess the last time I felt like anxious kind of fear was the last time I did a photo shoot for something, and it was really quick fire. It was after work. I travelled to London. It was 15 minutes in front of a camera. And I know it sounds crazy because I'm here talking about embracing my visible difference. But yet, the thing that often gives me anxiety the most is embracing my body, because I'm a curvy woman and I'm learning to love all parts of myself. But funnily enough, I can go bald into a room and all these things, and that used to terrify me, but I'm almost coming to terms with that. It was like I had to take my blazer off and I was just in a little cami top, and like that's not something I do every day. That's not an outfit I tend to wear, and I was doing it in front of a camera, and my heart started pounding and I felt it. So I guess day to day, whether it's through choosing to do photo shoots or the week before when I was at a big campaigning day with a charity I volunteer for, and I was feeding back to a room of 20 other people, again, I'm an extrovert, but when things matter to me, the heart gets pounding. And there is a bit of fight or flight there. When things matter, like, I get that nervous energy, but I think that's also what drives me.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is, for somebody that's done so many cool things like you, I always say, like, you're one of my coolest friends, because you've done the TED Talk, you've done campaigns with Dove and, like, Kurt Geiger and, like, all these, like, big brands. Like, you do so many cool things. You gave a talk at your alma mater. Like, that's sick. You do all these things. But I think it's important for people to, like, who do such, like, visibly cool things to also be like, hey, it can be hard to do these things. And so that's a really empowering thing that you just said. And I hope it encourages anybody that's listening to be like, yeah, it can still be scary even if you have all of these things, like all these accolades and all of these things on your resume, like 100%.
100%. I am not a natural public speaker. It's not something that I've practiced other than doing it. That's
are a public speaker because you've done it.
Yeah, okay, so just like it's full circle here, we're taking us back to the comment about being a model. If you're in front of the camera, you've been a model. Yeah, it's true, but it doesn't mean you always these things, they may look to other people from the outside like they come naturally to you, like you say, but actually, like, if I don't feel fear, it probably means I don't care enough, and I think that's probably a good measure, actually. And like, I was so anxious the day of my TED Talk. I was so nervous. I was still trying to memorize my speech, my 17-minute speech, up to, like, I kid you not, 5 minutes before I was pacing outside and trying to memorize it. And it wasn't because, like, I'd been rehearsing all week and stuff, but it just wouldn't go in because it was the first of its kind I'd done something like that. So, but, what was the worst that could happen? I'd forget my words halfway through and I would have styled it out, or I wouldn't. Like, whatever, it would have been fine, because at the end of the day, like, I'm just there to tell my story, and I know my story. We all know our experience. We've all got something to say. Just because I label myself a campaigner / the charities I work with have called me that, it's a swanky title for what is effectively showing up and advocating for myself every day. And we all need to do that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think I would love to see more people just, the whole feel the fear and do it anyway. I guess that's what me and you are doing each day.
We're trying. We show up. We do what we can. Okay, 2 quick more questions. Number 1, what is a last little nugget of wisdom you'd like to leave the listeners today? Last little piece of advice.
Sorry, I'm squinting. I apparently have no wisdom. I have no wisdom in my mind. I think it has to be who are you doing it for? Is the energy you're putting out in the world, could it potentially help someone? And that sounds like so lofty and so ambitious, but it's so easy to change the course of someone else's day with some positive energy, or by sharing your story, or by saying a kind word, or by saying, no, I totally get that sucks, I'm sorry that you're going through that, I don't understand, but I hear you, and I validate that. And I think we all need to do better. I need to do better to just realize the impact that our words can have on each other, and just one positive interaction a day will make you feel better as well. So we all need to be better at that, I think.
I love that. I think energy is everything, and connections are everything, even if it's just somebody that you run into on your daily trip to get milk at the grocery store.
Glug, glug, glug.
Glug, glug, glug. Oh my God.
Run to the toilet because I'm allergic to milk.
Oh, I had to bring it back. Full circle, all the way. Laura, it's been an absolute honor having you here today. Where can people find you?
It's been lovely talking to you as always. People can find me on Instagram at Relight Alopecia. I'm also on LinkedIn talking about owning my visible difference in the workplace. And yeah, hopefully they'll see me on your page via this podcast soon.
Very soon, and everything will be linked down in the show notes, so anybody that wants to go check out Laura's amazing work, please do. She is not only a great friend of mine, but just such a vibrant and incredible person, and I think everybody needs a little Laura in their life, and I hope you agree with me after listening to this episode.
You're so lame, I love you.
Aww, such a heartfelt note to end on. Oh God, I love you. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.
I had to bring the British humour in, come on.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Access Denied. New episodes launch every Tuesday, so I hope that you will subscribe, download, whatever you do to make sure you're here every single week. We have so many incredible guests coming on, and I want to say a huge shout out to JP Warner Sound for dropping this sick beat that you're listening to right now. Thanks to everybody who made Access Denied possible, and I will see you next time. Bye!